Well, President Trump's military strike in Syria and Afghanistan receiving widespread praise, and one Marine was happy to see the U.S. military taking a more active role in Afghanistan. Staff Sergeant Joey Jones saying that on Twitter in the moments after the attack, quote, "I lost my legs because my government was afraid to use the tools they had and saw me as expendable. I wish I had this administration." And that Marine joins us now, Staff Sergeant Joey Jones. I love saying that. A former explosive ordnance demolition technician who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Joey, it's nice to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me on.
So just to set this up, we were covering the breaking news yesterday during our hour as we got the word that this bomb was dropped in Afghanistan. And I personally felt there was something a little bit missing from the conversation, although we were really just dealing with facts at the time. And I went up to my desk and was on social media, and I saw you had put out this tweet, which got a lot of attention over the last 24 hours. So why don't you just take us back to that moment when you learned about this bomb being dropped and why you felt compelled to share what you did?
Well, this is an issue I'm really personally connected to. The tweet very specifically and carefully starts out with, "I lost my legs because," and the story behind that is that I was a bomb tech. My job was to go in and take apart bombs. I love doing it. I miss it every day. But the actual operation I was injured on was a ghost town where people had stockpiled the enemy had stockpiled components to build IEDs with, and what we were trying to do is neutralize those IED components. We made the decision to go into that town after it was vacated by civilians and mostly enemy and render safe IEDs in order to neutralize that. And we recommended to our superiors that we could drop bombs strategically or use ordnance, even artillery, to neutralize that threat. But at the time, you know, the headline, U.S. drops bombs or U.S. fires artillery, just wasn't worth it. I guess risking us was. That's how I feel. That's how we felt then. And I believe that this action with the MOAB, I think, is a pretty strong statement. You know, the MOAB's a statement bomb, in my opinion, in this case, that says that we're going to do what we need to, and we're going to keep our guys and gals safe.
That's really, and especially hearing from you, from your experience on the ground, but also your experience with explosives, hearing that is a really interesting perspective. Just to underscore what you said, when you went into this particular area, the risk of civilian casualties was not high because, as you described, it was a ghost town. But still, the unwillingness to act with what you requested as someone on the ground must have been incredibly frustrating, and I can't imagine reflecting on it now, having experienced the injuries that you had. What was the response when you asked for this and knew that you weren't going to get it and go into a very dangerous but deserted area?
Well, we were allowed to kind of request a list of recommendations prior to us going in on foot and doing this by hand. None of them were approved until later on, actually until after I was injured and another person was killed, another Marine was killed. And that's kind of usual. We start with as far away from us using our hands as possible because we want to stay alive. And it was really hard to request air-to-ground ordnance for any type of situation while in country, and that was just kind of the protocol and what we were left to deal with.
You know, it's frustrating to hear that, you know, from someone on the outside.
Absolutely.
And even just watching what we did yesterday by dropping this massive bomb, it was really a reminder that the United States has the tools. It's a choice to use them or not. And so there was a choice made to use it, but it makes me wonder about our choices in previous years, not just of the Obama administration, but going back to the Bush administration as well.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think of these decisions, and what do you think we can do better?
Well, I think there's a lot of layers to this. You know, a lot of the conversation yesterday was this sent a message to our enemies, or it sent a message to other countries and other leaders. And I think the message that was sent that people overlooked all day long was the message our commander-in-chief and our generals sent to the rest of our military. In other words, the fact that the story progressed to say this wasn't President Trump calling and requesting a MOAB, that this was President Trump giving the generals this opportunity months ago, and that they landed on this piece of ordnance, something that we know would create headlines as the best way to operationally and tactically neutralize this threat, shows us that those perceptions or those considerations that perhaps were plaguing us in years past don't take precedent today. And if this is an administration that's allowing that, then I applaud them.